going out there, that's a positive step for us. We'll go through the rest of the week. This is a big one day at a time for him. I know how he feels about making sure he's there every Sunday. And we just want him to take the proper steps, listen to the trainers, just make sure he's doing all the little things right, and just listen to what those guys are telling him.
What have you learned about his tolerance for pain and toughness since you've been here?
Yeah, I mean that's a non-issue. I mean, if his body parts are working, he's going to do everything he can to be on the field.
Adam, Bobby McCain's become a very valuable guy in the secondary because he can play so many spots. Where have you seen the most growth from him since the time he first got here?
I think it's just experience, really, just knowledge of offenses. When we first started, it started with leverage. He lost early in that first season on some routes, and then he made huge strides throughout the season. And then the longer we've gone, the tighter the coverage has got. And the times that we're kind of thrown outside when we've had injuries in the past, he's gone out there, he's been competitive, he's been tight. He's gotten his hands on some balls as far as some PBUs, and I think he's just to the point now where he's able to play a lot smoother, to where he kind of understands splits and concepts and things like that help him be able to break on throws, kind of know where to position himself.
Offensively, you've been able to turn turnovers into 2 touchdowns, 2 field goals. When you've committed a turnover, you've only allowed just 1 field goal. What does that say about your defense, that it's not letting the momentum swing for the other team in that sense?
I think they came in they started in the spring with the right attitude of it's an opportunity to make something positive happen off of a negative play. And I know that has been something that he's stressed right from the get-go. We kind of took some steps to change how we were going onto the field, what we talked about, and those guys have done a good job of embracing it and then actually going out there and executing it the exact way that they've talked about it. And that's big for us, because that's one of those kick in the gut when you have a turnover, especially when it's on your own end.
Adam, with running back, obviously there's a numbers game because Perry and Bolden have such great value on special teams. Do you tell Balaj, okay, this is just the way it is, or do you try to incentivize him to say, why don't you do something to try to make us rethink this in terms of, positive motivation?
I talk to him quite a bit, almost every day of practice, just try to give him, a few words here and there to just remind him of you just keep doing what you're doing, because he's done a great job in practice every day. He's in there. He has a smile on his face. He's ready to go if he's called on, and he wants to play. I mean, you can tell when the way he practices. Every day he walks out there, and there's a statement with the way that he runs and thuds guys up, and the way he works extremely hard on special teams to just keep trying to show those guys, hey, I'm ready to go when I'm called upon. And it's not an easy thing, especially for a young player, a rookie, to not be active. But I think he's done a great job of handling this, and we keep seeing him get better every day. You're always hoping that everybody stays healthy. It's just the NFL. I mean, you're going to have guys here and there that go down, and you just need everybody to be ready to go.
Do you still see more of a ceiling to get to for Albert Wilson? I'm sure that he knows the playbook at this point, but to become more fluent and just to have it come without thinking for him would be the next step.
I think the more that we do with him, and the longer that he's really in this, and it's only going to get easier for him. I don't know if any of our guys will really ever say, hey, I got it, because I mean, you always want to be learning. You always want to kind of try to figure out the next step. What else can I do? And he's one of those type of guys. He's always looking to contribute in any way, no matter what it is, whether he has the ball or not. And I think that's something that I've really come to appreciate about him is, he is unselfish. He cares about his group doing well, and he's a big part of kind of, making sure that our guys, we're focused on winning. It's not about numbers. It's about how do we do well as a team.
Do you approach the season as rolling out your offense, your scheme in phases, or do you just drop everything at once? You guys are doing what you want to do right now.
We kind of like whole type deal as far as installing the offense. Like we give them a ton early, and then we scale it back and kind of piecemeal it in, and then we drop a whole bunch on them again in training camp. So, once you get to games, then it becomes, little segments of it, and you're kind of pulling things out of there, and then the guys can fine-tune those type of things. So, I mean, every week it's a little bit different as far as what we're doing, but most of this stuff they've heard before. It's just they might have to reach back a little further to remember it.
Well, using it in the games is more what I was referring to. Is there stuff that, are you trying to show some things now and hold some things for later, that this, in a big picture sense of the entire season, are you doing some things now that's set up for later, or do you just use everything every week?
You just use whatever you can to win that game. You don't want to hold anything back.
The Raiders, I think, are second in sacks allowed. Is it just a matter of getting the ball out fast, or they really get up front?
Yeah, I mean, well, it's both. Derek's done a great job as far as getting the ball out extremely quick. Those guys have done a good job of getting open really quick. And then you throw that line in front of them. I mean, that's a large group of guys that have done a great job in previous years. I mean, they've never been an easy group to go against. They're hard to get around. I mean, they're big guys that when you attack up the middle, they're not going very far. And when you go on the edge, I mean, usually by the time you get there, the ball's out. So, I mean, I think it's a combination of the wideouts, tight ends, and, quarterback getting the ball out, and then you throw in their running game. That's why when they go play action, you see guys running free, because the secondary, they're on their own.
Has the development of Shaquem gone as you expected? We're looking back from where you got him at.
I think it's probably gone better than really initially. When we first started and he was in the slot, I think he struggled a little bit. I think when we moved him outside, that helped him a lot, because it really helped him focus on, limited things where there's not as many options, and he could use his speed and his quickness to his advantage. And the longer we've gone through this, I just keep seeing constant improvement. It's nice to have that many wide receivers. You're trying to always get these guys on the field. You can't get them all on the field, but you just keep trying to find ways to get those guys on the field, get them touches, make sure that whole group's involved in the game. It can become, you're aware of it, and his development has been one of the main reasons why we're able to really kind of look at it as five guys, because he's not just a specialist. He legitimately, contributes to our offense.
I think the size, we always get back to the size with him, of course, but on the outside, isn't that an extra, I don't want to say handicap, but an extra issue?
I think his quickness overrides any kind of size. If you notice, like, he gets a lot of off coverage, because guys they come up to press him, and if they miss, he's by you, and you're not going to catch him because his speed is so great. And that's why when we've thrown deep balls down the field against our defense, he's just wide open because they missed on the line of scrimmage. And we haven't really seen a whole bunch of that with him during the season. Guys really play off on him, and that's why we get some of the underneath throws with him.
Has he improved more at route running precision or catching consistency?
I think both. I don't know if I can tab one over the other. I think his knowledge of the offense is light years from what it was that first year, and then that helps him be able to focus on things of route running and catching the ball. If you're not thinking about other stuff and you're able to focus on catching the ball, that helps you.
I know you're comfortable with Mika playing that nickel spot. He's gotten settled in there, but how prepared is he to maybe move back if Rashad isn't playing?
We've moved him all over the place throughout since he's been here. He's played every position. So the thing about him is he's a quick study. So he's able to take limited reps in multiple spots and really absorb that. He's always ready to go at whatever we ask him to do. He's built a little different.
Adam, to the untrained eye, it appears Raekwon McMillan has been thinking too much a little bit, maybe. I'm wondering what you see from him. Are you seeing the aggressiveness? Or are you seeing him swarm to the ball like you like?
I think as from preseason to the first game to the second game, I just see strides every week to where he's more comfortable. I thought last game was better than the first one, and that's what we want. We just want constant improvement. I think he is getting comfortable, really working with Kiko and Bake and those guys really developing a good chemistry there. And, we just, sometimes you forget, he hadn't really played an NFL game until we got going in the preseason. And, I think he's a quick study. I mean, he puts a lot of work into this, and he does well in practice. We just keep working on translating that to the game and trust what he sees and just react and play like we know he can.
Does it make the calls you have the headset?
It's been both those guys at some point since the preseason, yeah.
Adam, can you talk about the importance of this team playing with an early lead, and does that change your play calling at all?
Probably makes it more aggressive.
Yeah,
I mean, I don't know. I mean, I think it's great for our defense because if we ever get a team into a situation where they have to throw it, letting those guys pass rush as much as possible for as long as possible, that's really ideal for us. Those guys they're disruptive, and if we can put more pressure on the quarterback, then that's where turnovers come in handy. Shorter fields, score more points.
Where did Parker leave off when he was hurt? How did you feel he was playing through the summer?
Mentally, I thought he was good as far as all the stuff that we were doing. I know he didn't feel like training camp was going as smooth as he wanted it to be. I think he was hoping he'd make more plays, in practice and some of the 50-50 balls, but a lot of the other things were really good with what we were working on. I feel like he's in a good place right now. I think just really taking a step back and then getting healthy and staying engaged in everything, it's really helped him. And I loved how his attitude's been since he's really been back practicing with us, and his energy level, and his legs look great as far as running, and he's had a good 4 days when he's practiced.
Was he physically good in August? You said mentally he was good.
Yeah. I mean, he was. I just.
Howard so much? Or?
It might have been. I mean, I don't know. I mean, it's hard to say that's what anything was. I just think he's so used to coming down with a lot of those balls, and it might have been a little bit of Xavier just competing that much tighter than maybe what he's used to.
But he was where you wanted him physically.
Yeah. Okay.
Is it clear in your mind if he's going to play Sunday?
I don't know, Barry. We'll find out.
With Devontae, is that a missing element, that big rangy body? Because you have a bunch of smaller.
I think it's always nice to have as many different body types as possible, different skill sets. Just makes it hard in the defense. Just the wider the variety, the better it is for us.
I saw a stat that Frank Gore, it's just 2 weeks, but it's still interesting. #1 in the NFL in least time spent behind the line of scrimmage. So obviously, there's something to that, first in the NFL. So what does that stat tell you? And even though he and Kenyon obviously have different body types and strengths and running styles, are you hoping that there's any part of on-field that Kenyon sees Frank do that helps his game?
I think they both really learn from each other. There's things that I'm sure that Frank watches when what Kenyon does, and he might drop that into his game, and vice versa. I mean, that's really what you want when you got two guys that really have to play off each other during a game. You want those guys to constantly be communicating and talking, and what did you see, and how did you look at this? And, Frank does have he has a knack. I mean, he has forever of avoiding the negative plays. I mean, you really have to have a just flat out like bum rush for him to get a negative yardage. So, he just has that little bit of a wiggle there at the end, and then he's powerful enough to push the line of scrimmage forward.
One thing with running backs on the topic, it's clear every week they do something to show their pass catching skills. We saw Frank with a 3rd and 19 last week. Is that something that's vital for you with your backs? Could you ever envision having a back here who's not a good receiver out of the backfield, or is that essential for what you want from that position?
I mean, I like guys that can do everything, where you can run the ball, you can catch the ball, you can protect. I mean, when you have somebody that's, hey, only at this point of the game, 1st and 2nd down, or short yardage, or 3rd down, it can limit you. I like guys being able to kind of get in a rhythm and stay in a whole series instead of coming in and out. So, I think the group we have right now, I like that group. I like all those guys. I mean, we can put any one of those guys in the game. We feel really good about it. So, I think as deep as we are, hopefully we're not bringing anybody in for a while.
Last question.
Pass.
Omar, you're one.